Hi, it's Diane, and I'm very excited for my new book, Daily Meditations for Visionary Leaders. Check it out on my website, visionsapplied.com/meditation. Now, on with the show.
If you are listening to this podcast, it means you are searching for someone who understands you, someone who gets you. You are yearning to be understood and to belong. Welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast, where we help smart, talented, and sensitive people navigate an often insensitive world. Let's welcome your host, ambassador, author, speaker, and mentor, Diane Allen. Diane has the experience and knowledge to educate and inspire, as she has been there and understands your unique intensities and their challenges.
Hey everyone, it's Diane again with another episode of Someone Gets Me. And today I have an amazing guest that you are going to be so thrilled to hear about. We're going to talk all about how to make your busy, overly filled up life a lot simpler and a lot less stressful for you. I have with me today Mary Baird-Wilcock, who is an amazing person. She's a CEO and a coach, and she actually calls herself an undercover superhero, which is perfect. I love it. But what she does is she works with people who are entrepreneurs or creatives and helping them make their life more simple, more stress-free, more available for them to be all who they're meant to be. So it perfectly aligns with all of you and this show. She also is the host of another podcast, the Simplifiers podcast. So for those of you who are really struggling with how to simplify, tune her in. I'll bet she has some great tips for you. And Mary is also an international public speaker. That she's been in Forbes, Huffington Post, and has done so many things to bring her message to the world. She is from Texas and apparently has some message for us about the Texas breakfast taco.
Oh my gosh.
And she also lives in England, but she travels all around speaking. So I have with me today, Mary. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Can we spend the next 30 minutes just talking about breakfast tacos? Because I'll be happy there too as well.
Well, I think we'll touch on it for a minute because all my people, we all talk about living our passion and our vision. And sometimes it's not just our work or our creativity. It's something we truly enjoy to our core. So when I saw that tidbit about you, I'm like, oh, perfect. But I would like to start with a question that goes right up your alley, because I think that I just did a survey, actually, of all my listeners and the people on my Facebook group and my page and everything. The number one thing that came back for them was overthinking and overwhelm as being their big issues. And so when I saw that you really help people simplify things, and like your topic of how to do less and get more done, that's right up my listeners' alley. It's right up my alley personally. So that's my first question. How do you do less and get more done? What do you teach?
Well, first and foremost, I think I am on the journey just the same with you and all of your listeners. By no means have I figured it all out, or the Buddha sitting at the top of the mountainside, and all that. But what I think I found in my own journey, I started the Simplifiers back in 2003. So I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. But you really, in the last 5 years, have you noticed that somebody has cranked the volume up to like 12? Like the pace of life that we lead is maddening. And the noise that surrounds our life is overwhelming sometimes. There is a lot of, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Look at them, look at that, what all they've accomplished. And social media, plays into that, where you find yourself chasing likes or retweets or shares or validation from an external source that is not yourself. And I think at some point I just go, wait, pause, stop. Like, the glorification of busy is killing us. And so, that's where I'd like to start the conversation about why I personally have chosen to do less. And what I found in that choice is when I do less, I actually accomplish more, is to first stop and recognize the amount of noise and the glorification of busy in our lives.
That is so true, especially the glorification of being busy. And I just made a comment to a friend of mine just yesterday, and I've said it more than once recently, but I was talking about it yesterday about the noise level.
Mm.
Just not only with social media, like you're saying, and like everywhere you look, but even in my neighborhood that used to be quiet on a Sunday morning. And I was
Yeah.
recording a meditation for my meditation podcast this morning, and I it I was up before the birds, and it was still, there was a chainsaw, there was a beeping truck, there were all these things, and it's Sunday.
Mm.
And it's just noise everywhere on the outside, which I think with bright and talented people that could yield to more noise on the inside.
Well, yeah. And, I think it's interesting to me. There's a very smart woman. Her name is Carrie Conti. She did a TEDx Austin talk a very long time ago. And it was all about do versus be. Now, she's a perinatal psychologist. She reminds us of like the power of pause. What happens when you give your brain the space to actually think and not just go, 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 do, be, like you have to like stop and pause and be. And, I think about where do I have my very best ideas? Diane, it is like in the shower when I am not doing anything else but just showering and getting ready for the day and all of that. So I shoot these little thought of the day videos, not in the shower, mind you, after I get out of the shower. But my thought of the day videos are simply from ideas that get sparked in that moment of pause where I'm in the shower and I go, and I don't know, does this happen to you where you hear a nudge and you hear a voice in your head that goes, hey, Mary, have you thought about this? Or what if you talk to this person today? And that nudge, whether you consider that a divine calling or otherwise, that's where the magic is. And when you give yourself permission to simply be, that's where you make the most progress in your life, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Amen to that. I get these little nudges in this certain 2-block part of my ride to work in the morning. And it always pops in, and it pops in sometimes when I'm cleaning or anything where I'm not actually like physically working. I call it my rest work, and they pop in. And if I don't follow them, they keep popping in more until I finally say yes. So now I've learned over the years, I just say yes and go for it and do it. In fact, I'm writing a book right now that just came in, write this book, do this thing. And I'm like, it wasn't on my list, but I'm doing it, because it is on my list now. And I think it's that pause. In fact, it's funny because in a couple weeks, I will be teaching an all-day workshop, and the name of it is Honor the Pause.
Yes, I love it.
And,
and I think that's the thing is that, I would consider myself a type A control freak. Raise your hand if you are that person as well. And also I consider myself a high achiever. So we are rewarded and applauded in public life when we do stuff, right? And so it is such a trap because you can rely on that external validation, the awards, the certificates, the spotlight, and I think that sometimes I should back up and say I'm a Libra. I live in balance, or I strive to be in balance. So when you are too far in the do and you're not enough in the be, you are out of balance. But then on the flip side, if you're all about in being and planning and thinking, but not taking action, then that's a bit out of balance as well. So I think that there is, wherever it is and whatever makes sense for you in your life, your unique life, not comparing to other people, is important to just consider the balance between do versus be.
Absolutely. I always talk about doing and dwelling versus what your action's my favorite word. And if you don't balance that with that going within and being and breathing and just connecting with the world, then the actions can be random and impulsive rather than focused. And then pretty soon you're spinning your wheels.
100%. How many times have you ever gone to like a networking meeting or an event and you run into somebody you haven't seen in a long while and she goes, oh, how's it going? And your first instinct, the very first thing that comes off of your lips is, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, you would not believe that. Like, we do it all the time, don't we? We do it so unconsciously as well. I would challenge anyone that's listening right now that the next time you are in that kind of a situation and somebody says, hey, how are you? Instead of reacting with, I'm so busy, say, you know what? I'm well. I'm working on a few really exciting projects or things right now. And don't say anything more. And then they go, oh, really? What are you working on? And then you can go into ba, 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 ba. It's a much better conversation starter than just being like, oh, I'm so busy. And then they go, oh, I know. And this is like human nature, especially with women. We try to one up each other. So you say, oh, I'm so busy. And then the other person goes, oh, you have no idea. I had to do this, this, and this. And then the other person goes back and volleys back and goes, oh, but you have no clue what I had to do with the kids this morning and our school run and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, what are we doing to actually support each other in positive, affirming conversations rather than glorifying the busy?
Oh, absolutely. And I have a question for you that's kind of a little off because I really want to get to these 5 ways, but you just sparked it. Have you ever had somebody tell you how busy you are when you're trying to say that you're not? Like people go, oh, I know you're so busy, Diane, so I didn't call you. Or I know you're so busy because of this. Yeah. And that's their own excuse and projection because I don't say that I'm busy, even though I am. I always make time and I'm very good at my boundaries and managing things. And so I have people make that excuse for me when I'm not making that excuse. Have you ever had that happen to you?
100%. Yeah. And I think that's really insightful, Diane, to, for anyone that's listening, think about the next time you say that to somebody else. I think what happens in that moment, why we tend to say something like that or project that onto other people is we don't want to impose. We don't want to, take up somebody's time. We understand how precious time is. And so we're almost trying to be empathetic when we say that. But you're absolutely right. It does do a negative thing in that it undermines, I don't know, our conversation structure, like in our relationship. Oh, I know you're so busy and I thank you so much for your time and blah, 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 blah. Is there a better way to say that?
I think there is, and I think it's an unintended negative consequence. I think people are trying to say it to not impose and be respectful, and they really don't have another way to say it. But yet, when I hear it, there's a part of me that's like, well, first of all, don't speak for me, and second of all, I have to bring my brain back to the conversation rather than somebody asking me, how are you? And let's talk about what's going on and then give me permission to share what I want to share.
Yeah. And I think that the very simple fix there is instead of saying, oh, I know you're so busy, you just simply say, hey, I value your time. I'm so excited that we get to connect today. And then go on. That's it.
Exactly. It's very simple to be direct and say what the truth is. And see, so you're so good at the simplifying thing. My people, I hope all of you who are listening to this are hearing what Mary is saying. So what are the 5 ways to simplify your life as an artist or an entrepreneur? My audience is both. They're artistic and visionary, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs, but not all of them. And what I tell the people who aren't entrepreneurs, I also have teenagers and things who are headed that way, is that our life is our business, how, in that business sense, that our smile is like our business card, and we may not be making money in the entrepreneur sense, but our presence and the way we put ourselves out there should be considered that of, our reputation. So both of those fit, but would you share with us your 5 ways to simplify life and make things more manageable for the overexcitable, intense people who are listening?
Yes. So my very first one is realize and celebrate your core artist. So what I mean by that is I love to paint. I'm a doodler. I've been drawing since I had a pen in my hand. And, now in my professional life, I am a business coach. I'm a podcaster. I'm a public speaker, which, when you hear those things, you go, well, does she get a time and chance to be a painter and to be a doodler and a mind mapper? And the answer is yes. That's at the core and the essence of who I am. Never forget the things that light you up. And so this may sound ridiculous, but I build that into my schedule. So if you are a musician and you do gigs every night and, that's part of your work as well, and it sort of turns into feeling like work, have you built in time in your life where no one is watching, no one is listening, and you just get to celebrate and practice your art? Yeah. So I'm a quote unquote busy person, right?
Right.
My schedule is is very full, but intentionally full of all the things I love to do. But when I'm back home, I live in a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere in England, and we have this little village weekly art club. And I'm telling you, Diane, I am easily the youngest person in that room by about 40 years. I just meet up with these little ladies and little gentlemen, and we paint for 2 hours on a Thursday. And I can't tell you how much that 2-hour session resets my brain, my heart, fills my self-care tank, and inspires me to do so much more in the rest of my week. So just building in those pockets of time that helps you get back to the core of who you are. So if you're a writer, it's building in that time to just simply write. If you are an artist, building that time to just create. Because I don't know about you, but when you're a creative, you're an artist, you have to get it out of you, right? You can't not have it like bubbling up. You have to let it out. And it helps you so much more in the rest of your life.
Oh, yes, it has to come out. And so trying to not let it come out, like some of the people who find me that I work with as their mentor and things or come to my workshops, they have struggled with trying to hold it all back and stuff it in. And they're like, anxious or depressed or exploding or whatever. And I'm like, no, you have to let that beauty in you and that vision and that creative part of you show up. And then everything else settles. It kind of turns the heat down on the pressure cooker, so to speak. So that is totally exactly, like, I completely agree with you on all of it. That's great.
Yeah. And the next bit I would say is something that I was inspired by from an amazing, brilliant mentor of mine, Danielle Laporte. She is a Canadian writer. She wrote the book, The Desire Map. And her core premise on this, I mean, really, when I learned this stuff, it changed my life entirely. But what Danielle preaches is, how do you want to feel in life? Like, what are your core desired feelings? And, so many times we go, and we don't stop and think about this stuff. Because, like, imagine if you are building a house, right? You lay the foundation first. You don't go and pick the curtains out and design the fabric and all of that, right? You lay the foundation first. So your house is you. Your house is your business, your brand, right? So how do I want to feel in my everyday life? And, it's interesting, when I did this good soul core work, I identified for my own life, I want to feel love. I want to feel radiant. I want to feel connected. I want to feel empowered and deep contentment. And when I got clear on those are my core desired feelings at this part in my journey in my life, then the next question is, what are you going to do in order to feel the way you want to feel each and every day? So that's a very different conversation than, oh, what do I have to accomplish today? Oh my God, my to-do list. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So many people want this, and this from me. But when you stop and pause and go, my core desired feelings are this. This is my foundation. And then go and the next step and say, what am I going to do today to help me achieve those feelings? Then it changes everything, right? You're empowered to the things that are on your to-do list today. You're like, yes, this excites me. This energizes me. This is everything that I love and gives me those feelings. And then it also gives you a very discerning brain to go, well, these things are on my to-do list and they need to get done, but they completely drain me. They completely exhaust me, or they are not in my zone of genius. And then you can go, well, okay, what can I delegate? What can I let go of? What can I pass off to somebody else, And that's where you step into your power and step into really, truly living a simplified life that is full of impact. So that's number 2.
That's awesome. And so those of you who are listening right now, if you want to hit pause and answer those questions, this might be a good time to do it. And then you can always hit play again for the other 3. Yes. But unless you're living your life from your core feelings and those core things that are most important to you, and then also saying, what do I need to do to act in alignment to them? then you're spinning your wheels all over the place. And so you probably had some great ideas while Mary was just talking. I know I did for me. So it's okay to hit pause and write it all down, or just keep listening and write down when we're done. But document what you're thinking and feeling right now, instead of just letting her words and my words go right on by. Let them really sink into your heart so you can emerge from this podcast alive in a different way than when you first hit play.
Yes, I love it. And here's one quick tip for you. On those core desired feelings, whatever you write down, just write them all down. Whatever you think, don't edit as you write. Just go, brain dump onto paper. But I want you to go back and look at your list. And the core tenet is that these feelings can only be given to you by you. They cannot be hinged on somebody else giving you them. So for example, when the first round of writing down my core desired feelings, I wrote things like, I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel respected. I want to feel those kinds of things. And those are hinging on somebody else giving me that. So when I realize, oh, wait, I have the power and the ability in my everyday life, not in big grandiose moments, but even in the teeny tiny decisions we make every day, I have the power to give this gift to myself. It changes everything. And that's where, moving on to step number 3, it helps you release yourself from that external validation, that need for validation from everybody else.
Yes. And that's important, because I think a lot of people do their actions looking for, like you said earlier, the likes and the attention and the external feedback. And that's living life backwards.
Totally.
It's inside out, not outside in. And so that's a perfect way to start turning the ship around and looking in the correct place for the answers to what's overwhelming or whatever it is, which is why I'm suggesting to stop and write it down and then listen to the rest of the steps so they don't miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. So step 3 is stop chasing likes and start building community. And I will be the first to admit that I fall victim to this. So I have a app on my phone called Time Hop. And I love Time Hop because simply, I don't know how it does it, but it aggregates all the content from my various social media channels and says, hey, Mary, 5 years ago on this day, here's what you were doing. Or 7 years ago, here's what you were doing. It shows a video or a photo that I had posted. Do you know what's funny, Diane? It's like literally 5 years ago, I would have posted a photo of something on my Facebook page. And 5 years ago, it maybe got 3 or 4 likes, right? I don't remember 5 years ago having that inner dialogue of, what? Only 3 or 4 likes? What? Why has no one commented on this? Blah, 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 blah. But do you find nowadays, if you post something on Instagram and it doesn't get a minimum of 30 likes, you're like, gasp. Like, what? The nerve of other people. Are they not like valuing what I'm putting out in the world and my genius? Like, it's so interesting to me how our brains have shifted over the last 5 years to chase likes. To expect other people to comment on everything and tell us we're doing an amazing job and oh my gosh and wow, right? There's something wrong. There's something wrong.
I agree. Then there's something that I think is happening and in the entrepreneur world that I'm noticing, and especially over the last couple of years, but certainly over the last 5 years, where artificial intelligence is coming. And if you're not at the top of this and you don't have Yelp going and you don't have all these things going, then it's either directly said or implied that then you will not have a business and you will not have a livelihood. And so there's all of this underlying heightened kind of fear expectation going on that if you don't do it this way and get this much traction in this particular manner, then you can just forget living your vision and you can forget having a business and you'll might as well just plan being homeless. And it's crazy, but I know I feel it a lot when I'm around networking situations. And I know there've been times where it's really impacted me. I go away going, well, maybe I need to do something else. And then I'll say, well, let me see, where do you get your clients and what's really going on? No, okay, that you don't have to worry about that. But sometimes I have to talk myself through it because it's so prevalent and the energy is so intense in people at times in situations that say, if you're not doing it this social media way, whatever it is, then shortly you'll be outdated or won't be wanted anymore, or whatever the message is. And it can really take people on a ride in the wrong direction. And, it's all about inside out, yet the social media type of influence has been getting greater and greater and greater, to the point where, I was one of the people, like around Christmas this year, I was like, I'm done. I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. And I'm no longer even listening to what other people are saying, other than in curiosity.
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think it's fascinating to me, and it feeds into that sense of overwhelm and insecurity, and it feeds into the beast of, if you really peel back the layers of what's truly at the bottom of this, it feeds the beast of, I'm not enough. And when you are feeling like you're not enough, you're not doing enough, you're not out there enough, you're not doing all the things that everybody else is doing, it makes you crumble. It breaks down your self-esteem. Now, I want to be clear. Social media isn't bad. It's just literally, when you take a look at it and treat it like it's a supplement to real connection in person. Like when you start to look at social media as simply a tool to help you make real connection in person with real life people, then it can be very powerful in a good way for you.
Right. Well, that's how we met. We met through
Mhm.
social media.
Yep.
and we found each other, and then we talked, and then we had a really good alignment, and now here we are. So a social media can serve a purpose, and when you make it your God, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting. I read a story recently about a new trend of millennials who are carrying dumb phones, like those old flip phones, specifically so cut out the noise in their life. And so I love that, the idea of just carrying a dumb phone so you don't have all the notifications and distractions in life.
Yes.
Yeah, so funny.
Dumb
yes.
phone. I love it.
So stop chasing likes, but start building community. And what I mean by that is, as business owners and small business entrepreneurs, it can be very isolating, the work that you're doing at home, plugging away, and then maybe you do a show here and there and you do see people. But I really feel like community is what we crave the most, regardless of if we're introverted or extroverted. We crave true connection with other people. And I believe that relationships online are only solidified when we meet in person. So yeah, it's so important to find your tribe of people, focus on that community over competition. It's a huge mantra in my life. But, like I said earlier, repeat after me, please, please, please. You are not your to-do list, and you are enough.
Yes. You
Yeah.
are not your to-do list, and you are enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's literally step 3 in the simplifying your life process.
Mm-hmm. And step 4?
Step 4. So, talking about social media, filter, don't filter is what I call it. We're constantly surrounded by the noise and information. So you have to ask yourself, how do you filter out distractions? How many of you guys have notifications set up on your phone? For every single app? Like literally, that's step 1. Go into your phone right now and remove as many notifications as you possibly can, because in order to filter your life and filter out the noise and information, you need to cut down the distractions. And so laser focus, in my opinion, is literally a muscle you have to train. So in order to do that, in order to get laser focus, and laser focus in my mind is focusing on one thing at a time. Multitasking is a myth. Don't do it. It doesn't work. Focus on one thing and get it done. You have to ask yourself, when you have the tendency of wanting to multitask, you have to ask yourself, well, sure, I could do that, but is that the best use of my time? Is there someone else out there that I can delegate this to that could do it faster, cheaper, or better than you? So, you have to have that filter and be really focused on doing the things that bring your core desired feelings, filter out the distractions and the noise from your outside life, right? But then also the part where I say filter, don't filter, is I encourage you guys to don't filter everything on social media. I think, there are so many apps out there that you can adjust the shape of your nose and you look like you're wearing makeup and it's just beautiful and perfect all the time. And I think that as a whole, there's a shift right now. We see these beautiful photos on Instagram and everything is picture perfect, right? You start to distrust, well, life can't possibly be that perfect all the time. That I wonder, as just a challenge to the listeners out here, every now and again post something that isn't filtered, that isn't perfect. The world doesn't need another filtered smiley photo of you on Instagram. And I actually, one practical thing that I've started doing is the Insta stories in Instagram is all me. And it's literally behind the scenes of my life as a CEO of the Simplifiers and traveling around the world and all of that. But it's also like sometimes the morning school run, it's also just seeing some of the blunders of the day. And no, I'm not wearing makeup all the time. So I think it's people appreciate authenticity and openness, and that again helps build community. So I challenge you guys, not all things that go out there need to be absolutely perfect and filtered.
And I think the authenticity of not filtering all the time is so powerful, because we crave, like you were talking earlier, is the whole community. And I'm big on community and creating a sangha and all of that. And I'm like, well, you have to be authentic if you're really going to actually connect with the people who you say are your community. So I think that the don't filter part and the community part go together, because if you're always filtered and then therefore a little bit on the one step away side from the authenticity, that makes building a community much more difficult, because they don't know who they're building the community with. They don't know who you are, and you might even get a little distracted from who you are. So I like how those two things go together very well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last bit, the number 5 of how to simplify your life. And again, it's a lifelong journey and process. But right, so you've set your foundation, you understand your core desired feelings, you celebrate and create time to practice your art and do your thing. You're really thinking about how to build community and stop chasing likes, filter, don't filter, all of that. Now it's time to do the thing, right? You have to go out and take daily imperfect action towards whatever your goals are, right? You can't just plan, you got to do as well. And I use techniques like the Pomodoro technique, where you set a timer for 25 minutes and you just focus on the one thing. And then 5 minutes where you take a break. You get up, you stretch, you make a cup of coffee. If you're really active, take time and do 5 minutes of planks or jumping jacks or whatever. And then you come back and do another 25-5 sprint. But here's the part that most people forget to do, especially as a small business owner or entrepreneur, is measure your progress. So honestly, like, when was the last time did you measure your success at work or at your craft? And have like an honest conversation with yourself. Like, this is really, really important. So if you've identified what your goals are for, say, this quarter or this year, tracking, well, how did I do last week? How did I do last month? How did I do yesterday in getting myself one step further to accomplish that goal? I think it sounds silly, and it doesn't need to be some grandiose thing. Like, it could be a 5-minute assessment by just journaling 5 minutes every morning. How to just measure your success and, like, celebrate your wins. So, I've heard very smart people give me advice of, like, every morning, write out what are your 3 outcomes that you want to accomplish today. And I love that. It gives you very concise and simple focus for your day ahead. But then, the follow-up is awesome. Let's celebrate the fact that I picked up the phone and called somebody who I was, absolutely scared to talk to, and asked for the thing that I was looking for. Or, awesome, I submitted this for an award, or whatever. You won the big sales deal. Like, take that moment to celebrate those wins. But also, and this sounds silly, but it's so important, celebrate the small wins as well. So I don't know if you've ever had, struggled with a bout of depression or anxiety, or you're just in a slump in life, right? And it's hard. Girl, I hear you. I feel you. I've been there myself. And when you're in the slump of life, your win may simply be, I got out of bed today. Awesome. Fantastic. Celebrate that. So don't forget to celebrate the little wins as much as the big wins in your life. And again, how do we measure our worth? It's not about being busy. It's about achieving your core desired feelings and taking one step after another, and having the courage to keep going on.
Exactly. It's about taking that aligned action, and it's the little things that make the big thing, right? And I think a lot of times, especially my male clients, I see this and more, where they look so far into the big thing that they sometimes miss the little things along the way, and they don't see their progress, and they start getting disappointed until I say, well, wait a second, let's back up and let's look at all the things you've been doing and what your progress is. And they go, oh yeah. And, I think part of that is just how we're trained and culturally and everything, but it's important to notice the little things. Anxiety, depression. A lot of the gifted people I work with have multiple trains of thought happening at one time. So they have what I call time optimism, where they have an idea at breakfast and they think it should be done by lunch, but it's really a 3-week or month-long project, and they have 9 other things happening. And so it's all about understanding that we take right action and we do the right thing, and to pay attention to all those milestones, like little mile markers along the way. And I think that that's very important. It's not always about the end result, because there is no finish line after all.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And so for me, these have been 5 tenets in my life. I'm striving for progress, not perfection in it. But, these are all truly ways to stop the glorification of busy, to simplify and get down to the core. I mean, it starts with you. It starts with being as much as you are doing. It starts when you filter, but don't filter. Life is better when you are in community together, when you time block like a total boss, but also when you measure and celebrate your progress, and when you truly, honestly accept that you are enough. That's how you make progress.
Yes. Enoughness, worthiness, and enoughness. So I imagine with these beautiful 5 ways to simplify your life, that there was most likely a time in your life where these 5 ways were not active. So I would like, if you are willing to share it, something about your own journey from before the 5 ways to now. Like I introduced you with where you are now, and I'm certain that no, you didn't magically jump here, that you, like all the rest of us, have a road, which you shared briefly that you are on, which is true. And so maybe you could kind of share with us a little bit about how was it before, just a little, flavor, and then what are some of the transformations or changes that you see now as a result of actually following these 5 steps that you embody and you speak about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the Simplifiers in 2003 back in the States, primarily as an events management firm. So we produce large-scale, non-traditional events for major brands, people like Facebook and Google and Microsoft and all of that. We produced hundreds and hundreds of weddings for amazing clients over the years, and some luxury social events as well. As I built this business from, very first year, it was me, myself, and I, my home office and my pajamas, to building a massive team in Austin, Texas, and, eventually attracting some pretty mega clients. You find yourself, when you're building an empire, it just grows. And if you don't have some of these basic tenets in place, all you're doing is building a bigger and bigger and more golden hamster wheel, right? And so I think for me, the fumbles along the way as I was building this massive empire, but working myself to the bone, like 80-hour-a-week work weeks, week in, week out. And, when you produce events, your client events are on the nights and weekends. So you put a full 10, 12-hour day in during the week, and then you've got the events on the weekends. So what I found myself was I was running myself ragged. On paper, our events business was, super successful, winning international awards, closing to $1 million in revenue. I mean, just massive, massive, huge success. But then when you come home at the end of the day and you are just shattered, is that truly a life worth living? And so I think that was the very first wake-up call for myself. But then when you start to throw children into the mix, so my children are 7 and 9 years old now. But I tell you, Diane, like when they were first born, I literally don't remember the first 6 months of each of my child's first part of their lives, because when you are in a life of sleep deprivation, sleeping 2 hours at a time here or there, and running a business, mind you, alongside, it's heavy and it's overwhelming. And if we hadn't taken photos and videos during that time, I literally wouldn't remember any of it. So I think for me, it comes with experience, it comes with time, and realizing what is most important in my life and what isn't most important. And, just really saying, okay, well, financial success is great. Money is fantastic. It affords many things in your life and allows you to travel and do all the things. But at what consequence? And can you start to say no to projects that just are not in alignment with your core desired feelings, and start to say yes to yourself, but yes to it's a higher vibration in life, I guess is the best way to put it. But then to cultivate that life that really truly serves you. So I think that those are the big lessons I've learned along the way. Is my life perfect now? Are you kidding? Not in any way, shape, or form. It's a work in progress. I am a painting that is not finished yet. But I think embracing the imperfectness, the imperfections, is definitely the way to live, and to give yourself that grace along the way. You're learning, you're figuring it out. No one gave us a manual or a handbook, right? And that's okay. But I think, yes, again, coming back to the core, what's most important, and then taking daily imperfect action towards what's most important. That's the secret.
Yes. And so would it be safe to say that today in your life, you're much more present and involved and engaged from the inside out than you were in 2001, 2002, 2000?
You bet. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, without a doubt. And, I have imperfect days, without a doubt. When I'm traveling a lot, my secret tip to myself is like, leave some love notes for future Mary. As in, go get some raw almonds and protein bars and shove them into your suitcase, or those little packets of emergency powder, just to help you give yourself love in the future, so that you aren't just succumbing to eating cookies and crackers and all the junk. Like, you have to do the things to help you thrive in the future.
Absolutely. Supporting ourselves on all different levels is so important. So
Yes.
Talk to us about this Texas breakfast taco.
Oh my gosh. So if you don't know what a breakfast taco is, then your life is not complete yet, and you need to get yourself down to Austin, Texas, to Torchy's Tacos ASAP. No, it's funny because I live in the UK, and I think I'm an anomaly already, just because I'm, a big personality there. But then when I start talking about breakfast tacos, that I like blow minds left, right, and center. And if I had enough time in the day, I'd probably start like a breakfast taco food truck over there. But one thing at a time, my friends, one thing at a time. A breakfast taco is simply this: deliciousness in a parcel of love. It is a flour tortilla, and it can be made many different ways, but we're talking scrambled eggs, bacon, sausage, salsa, maybe some black beans thrown in there, some cheese, some potatoes. You are rocking and rolling if you get that in your life. My favorite breakfast taco is Amiga's taco. I don't know if you're familiar with Amiga's or not, but it is scrambled egg, salsa, tomatoes and onions, and cheese, and then crumpled up tortilla chips. I mean, like, that is heaven on a plate right there. So good.
That's so beautiful. And your voice changed. So you were already all excited talking about everything that turns you on. And then I mentioned that taco and you like lit it up. And I asked that question on purpose when I did, because anything can light us up. And it's all okay. Like that to say, yeah, that's something that I just absolutely love. Like if you get me talking about racing sailboats or some of the things that get me going, it's going to be the same thing, because I believe that as creatives, that our being connects on all these great levels to lots of different things. And just like you paint, you also appreciate good food. You also love to travel. You also can share your ideas very well. And they're all part of that unified, authentic part of who Mary is. And so to ignore the food part or pretend like you didn't paint or any of those things, there would be a little fragment of you kind of off to the side, when I think that we're most authentically happy when we collect all those little fragments and begin to let them all kind of work together.
Yes. And I love sharing that with other people. So in England, I'll have massive dinner parties with my dear friends and just do like a taco bar and just blow people's minds left, right, and center. So I love it. You share your gifts, share your passions with others. It makes the world a better place.
Awesome. Yes. Share your gifts. I'm known for, because I talk to gifted people, of course, and whenever I do a live event, I bring gifts for everybody. And that kind of matched the theme of the gift or of the event. And I love doing that. Like, it's so much fun to just see looks on people's faces. And some of the people who come to a lot of my events, they always anticipate, what's she going to do now? What's she going to do now? And it's fun. It's fun to be in the flow of that kind of thing, and bringing that gift, if you will, to the world. So it's fun to hear you talk about tacos. And so now I'm going to have to go to Austin and have one of those tacos. It's making me hungry.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So is there anything that you would like to share that we have not already pretty much covered? And I would like you to include in that, if there's any resources you have coming up or anything you would like the audience to know. Of course, I'm going to put all the information of how to contact you in the show notes, because I think you've said a lot of valuable things for a lot of people. But I always like to kind of start winding down the interview with, whatever you feel led to say, or anything that is coming up that you think would be of value.
Oh, well, again, thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. It's such a great conversation. I think we've covered so many places. If you are looking for another podcast to subscribe to, I highly recommend popping over to the Simplifiers podcast as well and subscribe. Check it out. I also interview very smart women and men all around the world who take topics either in business and life and simplify them. And I like to say that I ask all the questions that everyone else is too afraid to ask. So yes, if you're looking for something else to listen to and get inspired, go check out the Simplifiers podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, you name it, we're there, and search for us there. But again, I really want to whisper into people's ears right now that are listening, that are feeling a little bit inspired, but also really down in the dumps, or just feeling like they're having a crappy day. Like, if I can just whisper this one thing into your ear, it's going to be okay. And this too shall pass. And perfection is not what you're going for. Just take another step. That's the most important. Take another step. Be courageous, and it will get better.
Yes, you are enough. It's all going to be okay.
Right? It will be. And there will be a taco in your future, my friends.
There will be. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary, for coming today and just really blessing us with your great wisdom and your energy and your enthusiasm. And I just can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your life to invest in this great community over here. So thank you once again.
It's my absolute pleasure. And remember, friends, keep it simple.
That's right. And remember, keep your face to the sun, because the shadows fall behind you. And always remember to share your smile. Until next time.
Are you tired of searching for someone who understands you? Join our Facebook group, Someone Gets Me. In this group, you will be able to connect with others who are intense, sensitive, smart, talented, and wanting to be understood. Diane shares her insights and teachings, and you can connect with others. Join today.